Hi everyone, welcome back inside the State Champs Sports Network studio for another segment of Fast Break presented by BCAM, the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan. This week we are pleased to have one of the board of directors members, Kevin Richards, the coach at Grosse Pointe South of girls basketball. And Coach, thank you so much for taking some time.
I appreciate you having me, Lauren.
All right, he's a teacher, so his time is limited, but this is important what we wanted to do this week and share with you. And that is saving lives, really, when it comes to basketball games and situations that can happen in which time is very limited. Now, Coach, you had a personal connection to something that was unfortunately preventable, yet affected you in a very profound way.
Yeah, in 2003, my dad was playing basketball. Played basketball three to 4 days a week, and
still a young guy.
Still 52 years old. Yeah, 52 years old, and playing in a rec league, and went into cardiac arrest, and unfortunately, at the time, this was in 2003, and a lot of schools didn't have AEDs, available, and unfortunately, that was the time, and he passed away at 52 years old.
Right, and these are the defibrillators that they now try to make available, I believe, everywhere, right, that they can. And I know that even if there are schools that maybe are not up to code, they can get them. Yeah. They can have them available, and the training's available, yes, to make it necessary. So bring it around to not too long ago, you actually had to step in and take action when action was sorely needed.
Well, we were playing Grosse Pointe North, our rival at home. Good game, 25-25. Bob Zaranek, our freshman basketball coach, was actually asked to, he typically does not do our score clock. Our AD, we were short that night, asked him to come in and fill in. And Bob willingly did that. Bob also coaches softball at Grosse Pointe North. So he's a pillar in the community as far as kids, and he officiates, and so he's doing the clock, and he's walking back from the concession stand, less than a minute to go, in the half, and started the third quarter, and he's walking and just collapsed, and hit his head, cut his head open, so he's bleeding. And our trainer was right there, Colin Karcher. He was unbelievable. He was, his calmness and poise that he had.
The instincts jumped in.
Yes. He checked his pulse and says he doesn't have a pulse. And so I ran and got the AED. When I got back, obviously with the AEDs, there's a loud siren that goes off, so it alerted a lot of people. Right. My mom saw me run and then came back. By the time I got the AED out, my mom had run across the gym. She was a longtime cardiac nurse, okay, all growing up. When I was young, she was the manager of the cardiac cath lab at Port Huron Hospital. And so she started chest compressions immediately. And our trainer and JV basketball coach, Joe Schrebernack, who's a police officer in Grosse Pointe City, and trained, EMT, and they got Bob hooked up with the AED, and they shocked him, and he got his pulse back. And it was intense, brought back obviously a lot of memories, from that night in December in 2003. But, it was just amazing to see, we had Dr. Zacharias from, had kids go to Grosse Pointe North. He was down. One of our volleyball coaches, Janelle DeVita, had come down. There was a lot of people. There was another Austin Price, who was another cardiac. It was just, he was in the right place at the right time. Right. If he hadn't been working that table, if it hadn't been a Grosse Pointe North, Grosse Pointe South game. Anywhere else, Coach Bob Zaranek may have not made it.
Absolutely. You need to pay attention to this because there needs to be people. They were lucky. They had people in the house who could come to aid and service. So make sure you have the AEDs. Make sure you have people on staff who are trained.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. And Bennett, every year you have to go through, and just like you, I'm sure, have to have CPR training. You have to turn it. Sometimes it's like, like checking the box, and looking at it now, it can't be stressed enough.
Absolutely.
And it needs to be reviewed, and once a year probably isn't enough.
Right.
And just the education behind not only the CPR, the AED. And there's great foundations out there. I've talked to a lot of people since that night. Actually, the next morning, I posted something, and Coach Ryan Klingler over in Granville, he was the head coach at Fenville High School years ago when Wes Leonard passed away and went into cardiac arrest. And so the Wes Leonard Foundation now, which BCAM is a supporter, Wes Leonard Foundation goes out and purchases AEDs. I think they're having a big game. I put it on Twitter the other day, but they're having a game, and they're buying 12 AEDs for schools and organizations that don't have them.
Fantastic. How's he doing?
He's doing great. He would have coached last Friday if the doctors would have let him. So he's doing well, and obviously we're happy to have him back. And like I said, Bob coaches basketball at South. He coaches softball at North. Every Saturday he's officiating either youth flag football games or youth basketball games. He does a lot of my games, at I'm the athletic director at Grosse Pointe Academy. He does our games, so he's very recognizable face in Grosse Pointe, and there's a lot of people out there that are really happy to see him.
Absolutely, and obviously providing a great service to the Grosse Pointe community. Sure. Quickly before we let you go, you are coaching, and Grosse Pointe South is having a good season.
Yeah, we're off to a great start. We play a fun style. We press the entire game, on makes and misses, and our focus every day in practice is pressing and shooting, and we sacrifice probably some things that probably I've done in the past, but we feel that shooting the ball is a skill that everybody can learn, and we let kids play with a lot of confidence, and it's starting to show. We're playing really good basketball right now.
And just quickly, he doesn't have a lot of travel players on his team, so he is, really in the aspect of teaching. Yeah. You have something that you talked about, the overhead camera, something that we're starting to see now.
We have Nolytics. We were the first public high school in Michigan to get this system.
And what does it do?
Basically, it gives instant feedback. Each time a girl shoots the ball. It's a camera in the ceiling. It's hooked up to a computer, a speaker, and then there's a touch screen on it. And basically what it does, every time someone shoots the ball, it'll give them immediate feedback on their arc or immediate feedback on how straight they shoot it. So we use that. The girls, the data, we track every drill that we do. We track shots, how many they make, and like I said, it's something that we've really emphasized the past 2 years to maybe combat some of those teams that have a lot of travel players, more experienced players, and the past 2 years since we switched to this system, like I said, we've had some success. We have a good young backcourt. In my opinion, I think we have, maybe the most underrated backcourt, if not in the state. I think, we have two girls, Alexa Downey, who junior, that's averaging over 16 points, and then Cameron Richards, she's a sophomore point guard, and she's averaging 13 points a game. So.
Any relation?
She's my daughter. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So you know, like, and we have a lot of girls that are, you know, filling their roles and starting to play at a high level.
We appreciate Coach Richards being here. A lot of parity in girls basketball this season, so we'll see how things shake out, especially at the upper levels. And just from a spiritual plane, if you believe in guardian angels, I believe that everything comes around, and you certainly had one there.
No question. And like I said, there's no question that I, you know, had my mom there, obviously, and then involved, and you know, I definitely feel that, you know, my dad was there looking out, you know, for Bob, looking out for, you know, everybody involved that night.
Yeah, absolutely. We thank you for being here.
I appreciate it.
Okay, absolutely. Appreciate it very much. Important stuff. That's what we do here at State Champs.